One of the important questions was, when do you foster an egg? How do you know when is the right time to foster an egg? Well, when a bird starts becoming broody and starts sitting on her own eggs, whether they're fertile or infertile, you have a certain window of time where you can add a different egg to that clutch, because a hen will only be broody for so long. Some hens will brood longer than others, but they have a time frame in their brains of how long it should be before the egg hatches. So you can't take an egg, say a hen that's been sitting on her eggs for 2 or 3 weeks, and add a fresh egg in there and expect her to hatch it. She probably won't. So your time frame, the window of time, is usually between a week and 10 days. I find that kind of the safety zone area. You also don't want to add a fresh egg to eggs that are fertile that have been incubated for, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because then her eggs will hatch, and you've got a baby that's going to hatch, and it's going to be way behind the others. And if you leave it in there, when it does hatch, the others will stomp on it and pretty much kill it. So unless you intend on taking it out, which is what I would recommend you do, you can either hatch the bird in an incubator and then start hand raising it yourself. But you can't take a young baby and put it with a clutch that's 3 or 4 weeks old. It just won't work, typically. So you want to use that window of time. If you have an Alexandrine that's been sitting on her clutch for 3 weeks, and you have another pair of Alexandrines that maybe have been sitting for 2 weeks, you can exchange those eggs. So you just have to use a little bit of common sense of when to do it.
Can you use a medium-sized egg? Can you a small to medium-sized bird sit on a
larger egg? Yes, you can. TJ's doing it. He's got those budgies that are sitting on some birds that are.
No, he does it from incubation.
From incubator.
Like chick already.
So yeah, you can. I put ringnecks under Alexandrines, the eggs. It worked. And I put Alexandrine eggs under ringnecks. It worked.
There's a big difference.
There's a big difference. But of course, they're cousins in the Psittacula family, so that worked. I try to keep it in the same family of birds in general. So I don't like to put like an Amazon egg under an Alexandrine. I never do that. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but I try not to do that. Because I will prefer to do it in the incubator myself. Because you're always taking a chance when you do something like that. So.
For the first time parents, breeders, if I harvest the egg, will there be a chance on the next class that those new parents will not do the natural incubation?
There's always a chance. I've got some birds that they never feed their babies for some reason. I don't know why that happens, but there's some birds, they sit on them perfectly, they hatch them perfectly, they don't damage them, but they ignore them when they hatch and they don't feed them. And I give them all the nutrition that possible that I think would help, but they don't feed them. So in those cases, I know the pairs. I mark the aviary which birds are which. I keep a record. I keep a history, and if I know that they're not good parents, I will pull the egg and either foster it under another pair of Alexandrines or ringnecks or whatever it might be, or I'll put it in the incubator and I'll hatch it and feed it from day one.
So you don't risk anymore of letting them incubate their own eggs.
When they first lay, I give them the chance to do it because I like that they do it. I want them to be good parents, and if they aren't good parents, then of course I'll take other measures to make sure that the babies survive. Whether that's putting them in the incubator, and that's a big time commitment, because I feed my birds from day one, every 4 hours around the clock. I stop at 12 midnight. I start at 8 in the morning. But it's a big commitment. You can spend 4 or 5 months hand feeding birds.
So it's every 4 hours, not
for the young birds. For the baby, from say day 1 to day 14, it's every 4 hours. For me,
some people 2 hours. Others do it every 2 hours.
Some people, that's even a bigger commitment. But some people do it every 12 hours, twice a day. I don't do that. I try to, because you'll get better growth. When the bird has food, the bird's growing. When the crop is empty, it has no nutrition going in. And if you look at a nest box of most birds, take cockatiels. A lot of people have cockatiels. The mothers pack those birds. Their crops are full all the time.
They're like exploding.
So what does that tell you? That they're digesting. They're getting nutrition all the time. And in the nest, when a baby's born, and if the mother's a good parent, she's feeding that baby around the clock. You can hear at nighttime her feeding the little chick, because she can hold the food in her crop. Because a baby chick doesn't eat very much, but she's constantly feeding it. Right? But I don't want to get up at 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning anymore. So I take a break from midnight to 8 in the morning. So, and then as the bird gets older, the crop can hold more. the food can be more dense, and I don't have to worry about that situation. So I feed, at that time I'll feed at intervals of maybe every 6 hours instead of 4 hours, and then gradually up to every 8 hours, and then twice a day as the bird's getting closer to weaning. So, and then once a day, just you have to monitor the birds, but it's a gradual scale. It's less, but by the time you're feeding the first clutches of birds and you're almost finished with them, you have new ones hatching. So it starts all over again, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But that's also how you can promote more numbers of birds. If you're doing this as a business or as a hobby, you get more production. Because when you pull the eggs for incubation, of course the parents can go back and lay a second clutch. And
About pulling the egg, what is the rule of thumb when to pull?
it depends on the situation. If the parents are aggressive and they might damage the eggs, I pull them as soon as they're laid. 'Cause
Even if it's just one egg?
yeah.
Or let's say if it's just normal breeders and they don't have any problem.
Okay, if there's no problems, the parents aren't aggressive, what I typically like to do is I let the hen finish her clutch. So let's say ringnecks. You guys all have ringnecks. Okay, so typically a ringneck will lay between 4 and 5 eggs, sometimes 6, sometimes 2 or 3. So I let her finish her clutch. After 4 or 5 days of no more eggs, I'll pull the clutch and I'll put it in the incubator. Or I'll foster it under another pair of ringnecks that are very good parents, but they're colors that I'm not interested in. So it just depends on the situation and how much energy I have. So.
Because with Hector's experience, on December 31, we pulled 2 gala eggs. And then after how many days?
6 days.
After 6 days, we pulled another 3 eggs. So, is that is still in the same clutch or another?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes birds will continue laying if they don't see an egg. Others will lay their clutch and then stop laying. But something you want to consider too, you don't want to make a bird into an egg machine where all it does is just keep laying. Some people do that. I like to give the birds a little bit of a rest. Always have to make sure that you have a good calcium source, because if they're laying a lot of eggs, you want to make sure that the birds have the calcium for the strong eggshell.
Question. Okay, wala na. So, we'll transfer to